This Shabbos is called Shabbos Chazayin, right? Shabbos Chazayin, Shabbos of the vision. I mean, the simple reason why it's called that is because the Haftarah for the Shabbos begins Chazayin Yeshayahu ben Amotz. It's the vision of Yeshai Hanavi, and when you read through the Haftarah, it's certainly like heavy Musar, but it's called Shabbos Chazayin. It's brought down by the Tzaddikim that Dafka, there's such an idea that the Shabbos, everything that's going to happen in that week, in any particular week, is really rooted in the Shabbos preceding it, right? Such an idea. Which means that everything that's going to happen this coming week, Be'ez Hashem, all good things, is rooted in this Shabbos. And the Tzaddikim say that this Shabbos Chazayin, if one has good eyes, one is able to see a vision of the third Beis Hamikdash. There's such a thing, but there's things like this, which is very, very strange. Because what comes invariably after Shabbos Chazayin is Tisha B'av, which is the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. So that's an odd thing. If we know that everything that happens in the week is rooted in the previous Shabbos, and what's going to happen this week, is a commemoration of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. So the Shabbos before Tisha B'av is when we're seeing a vision of the Beis Hamikdash. We should see a vision of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash or something. So what does that mean? The truth is, we're going to use that as a way of redefining for us what Tisha B'av is, because Tisha B'av is one of those days. I'll tell you like this. When you're a kid, like the 3 weeks, 9 days Tisha B'av is like the worst, because it's the summer, you're in camp, you're enjoying yourself, you're swimming, you're having barbecues, and then like all of a sudden, in the middle of all that fun, there's like the 3 weeks, okay? And then Tisha B'av. So when you're a kid, you just want to get past this. Now the truth is, even when you're not a kid anymore, right? And so you're not in the middle of color war, you know what I mean? But very often we don't evolve from that mindset. And we still think of the 3 weeks, the 9 days Tisha B'av as just a time just to get past it. Just to get past it. And that's very, very unfortunate. Not only is it unfortunate because it's like, it's unbecoming of a Jew, that there should be any time on the Jewish calendar that we're regretting, that we're sort of wishing wasn't there. But it's also like chaval, because the truth is, this time of year is so unbelievably powerful and potent and has so much potential for real spiritual enlightenment and deep simcha and deep spiritual satisfaction, that just to let it pass by, it's disrespectful to the time, and it's also like chaval on yourself to lose such an opportunity. So, what is Tisha B'av, So it's like this. We think that Tisha B'av is a time where the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Okay. That's not really true. That's not how it works. The Rebbeinu Shalom never just comes down and breaks something. Hashem never comes down and sends difficulty into a person's life. That's not how it works. It says in Pasuk, Mi pi elyon le'seitze rois, that from the mouth above, nothing evil comes. So how do bad things happen? The klal is like this. The way bad things happen, it's a little bit counterintuitive, but the way bad things happen in our lives is that Hashem Yisbarach at that moment is giving us so much good that what happens is, when you are being given so much light, so much good, and you don't have the vessels to receive it properly, then that gift becomes something unbearably difficult to accept. I'll give you an example. Let's say let's say you have a kid, he's in first grade or second grade, whatever it is, and they're beginning to learn math, right? So what should the teacher be doing? 1 apple, 2 apples. That's what you should be doing. But instead of that, the teacher's a big chacham, and he decides, he's going to impress the parents, impress the principal. He's going to teach these kids like pre-calculus. He's going to start giving drushes about Einstein's theory of relativity to first graders. So what happens? So he's giving them so much, they don't have the kalim to receive it. So what happens? Not only do they not know 1 + 1 is 2, but they are now going to be traumatized for the rest of their lives of math. They're going to be running away. Any time a person says anything math, they're going to be running the other way, right? Or, let's say you call before Shabbos or something, you tell your wife, right? Honey, would you mind if we have a few guests for Shabbos? Okay. Amazing. She says, fine, it's great. Now, you happen to be an idiot, okay? And when you say a few, what does a few mean? Few means 3, 4, at most. But again, when you say a few, you mean like 30. So you come home Friday night or Shabbos day, whatever it is, with a whole parade, a whole entourage of like 30 people. So if you have enough food and space for 30 people, that's the most amazing, beautiful Shabbos that you'll ever have. But if you don't have the kalim, if you don't have the space, you don't have the food for it, then those 30 guests become such a tzara, such a difficulty in your life. So there is this klal that a gift is unbelievably great if you can receive it, but if you can't receive it, if you can't process it, if you can't hold on to it, then the gift itself becomes the punishment. What's happening on Tisha B'av is not that Hashem Yisbarach destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. That's not what Tisha B'av is. What really is happening on Tisha B'av, and it happens every single year, is that Hashem is giving us a huge gift that's called Beis Hamikdash. But the problem then, and the problem still is now, is that we don't have the vessel to receive it. And if you don't have the vessel to receive that gift, which is called Beis Hamikdash, then the Beis Hamikdash that you do have becomes destroyed by it. This is why, by the way, in Hebrew, there's a lot to talk about with this, but it's a big principle. When in the Hebrew there's a word that Chazal in particular, it's not from Chumash, but in Chazal, Medrash, Bavli, Yerushalmi, that when they want to describe tragedy, difficulty, something terrible, they use the word peronios. Peronios. What does peronios mean? It's translated in the art scroll. It's like tragedy, difficulty, something like that. But it's interesting because the word peronios has a root. The shorish of the word is piroin, which means payment. Payment is a good thing, right? You're getting something. So why would the word peronios, which means tragedy and difficulty, have a root of piron, of actually being given something good? The answer is what Chazal, this is not in Chumash, but Chazal are hinting to us the root of all tragedy is not tragedy. The root of tragedy is Hashem Yisbarach at that moment is actually giving you something unbelievably good, it's just that you can't handle it. And this is why, by the way, when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, so we know Chazal say already that the day of Tisha B'av is the birthday of who? Mashiach, right? That's ironic. Like, why would Mashiach be born on Tisha B'av? The answer is, that's what makes Tisha B'av Tisha B'av. It's the birthday of Mashiach. It's Geula. It's just that it's so much Geula. It's so much light of redemption that if you're not able to handle it, it becomes its own opposite. It becomes destructive. I mean, this is also why when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed and they went into the Holy of Holies, right? So everyone knows that the Gemara says that the Kruvim, right, the angelic figures on top of the ark were embracing, which is very strange because the embrace of the Kruvim is always a symbol of what? Of the Beis Hamikdash being plugged in, like it works. Everything's working. Everything's functioning healthfully. That moment, if any moment in time where the Kruvim should have been facing the opposite, it would have been that moment. The answer is, no. That's why the Beis Hamikdash is being destroyed, is because we weren't able to handle that experience of light of the Beis Hamikdash coming to our world. Therefore, the real avodah this time of year, and Tisha B'av itself, is not just to be depressed and just to be sad and just to throw up our hands in despair. That's not what it is. The avodah of this time is to try to develop within ourselves the ability to receive that gift that's called Beis Hamikdash. That's the idea. And if you can find within your own life the ability to receive that gift, then the gift will come on Tisha B'av in an unbelievably great way. And the day of Tisha B'av will be a day of illumination, a day of light, a day of clarity, a day of dveikus. And all the avelos, all the mourning, all the lamentations, the crying, all that stuff that we do, it's not just about crying. It's about that is the way that we are building within ourselves the vessels to receive the gift of Beis Hamikdash, which is coming on Tisha B'av. So it's coming. Whether if you develop the ability to receive it, it'll be unbelievably great. If you don't, that's called Churban. So the main question that we have to answer right now is, what is the Beis Hamikdash then? Because if our job is to allow ourselves to receive that gift, so we have to know what that gift is, and then you'll be able to receive it, right? It's no different than anything else, right? If you want to receive the gift of 30 guests, then you have to know what means 30 guests, right? Are these fat people? Are these skinny people? Like, are big eaters, not big eaters? Like, I have to know what it is coming to me, and then I'll be able to have the proper vessels to contain it, right? If I'm thinking 30 little seminary girls, right? When really it's 30 football players, it's a big problem still. So I have to have the right kalim. Okay. So what is the Beis Hamikdash? So this takes a few hours, but I'm just going to try to put in like 5 minutes, okay? So, Friday night, one of the Zmiris that we sing and it's interesting, we sing it Friday night, but Kari Bain Olam, right? Kari Bain Olam. So one of the lines in Kari Bain Olam towards the end, I think, is the following: L'mikdash tuv, right? We ask Hashem, return tuv, shuv, l'mikdash tuv, Hashem, return to the Beis Hamikdash, u'l'kodesh HaKodshim, to Holy of Holies. And then the song says in one line succinctly, and what is the Beis Hamikdash? Asar divei yachtun ruchim v'nafsh. The Beis Hamikdash is a place in which ruach and nefesh come together. Zeh. That's the Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash is not just a physical building that you bring karbanos, certainly. It's not just a physical building that was like sort of the cultural center of the Jewish people. It was that too. But the Beis Hamikdash is a physical place that is the embodiment of a spiritual reality, which is called ruach and nefesh being brought together. And if we're going to allow ourselves to experience the Beis Hamikdash in our lives, to receive that gift of Tisha B'av, we have to do the best we can to try to develop within ourselves a desire to experience this union between Ruach and Nefesh. Follow? What does that mean? What does Ruach and Nefesh mean? Yeah,
what's Ruach?
Okay, so yeah, I'm not taking it for granted. Ruach and Nefesh is like this, on a very simple level. Nefesh means, these are both words in English, they will both be translated as like soul or something, soul or spirit, whatever, but obviously in Hebrew these are different words, so it means something different, right? Nefesh means the part of the soul, quote unquote, that allows you to be a human being. So we're all Baruch Hashem, we have a pulse, we're alive, we're breathing, we're hopefully listening, we're thinking about something. We're human. And there's a part of the neshama that is the battery pack for our humanity, for our personal character traits, our personality, our memories. That's called nefesh. When Hashem Yisbarach made Adam, right, and He breathed into him his soul, so it says, via Adam l'nefesh chaya, that Adam was a living person. So just being alive, being a human being, that's called nefesh. That's nefesh. And so too, nefesh applies with the person that now you're alive, you're a human being. Nefesh, on a broader scale, on a broader way of thinking, nefesh also represents everything that's physical, everything that's tangible, everything that's real, everything that's human, everything that's earthly. That's nefesh. But then there's something else. It's called ruach. What's ruach? Ruach is the part of a person that gives you a desire and the capability of experiencing something transcendent, something bigger, something more, something greater, something that's less tangible. That's why even the word ruach means a wind also, right? The wind is like you feel it, but you can't touch it, right? That's what a wind is. That's why in ruchnius, right? Spirituality, right? That's what, why is ruchnius called ruchnius? It's because it's something you can feel, but you can't really feel, right? It's like either you experience it yourself or that's it. I mean, there's no words for it. So the best word that we have is ruchnius, right? It's ruchnius. There are some people that are balei ruach. This means to be a Baal Ruach. A Baal Ruach means someone who's naturally inclined to experience that which is a little bit beyond the physical senses. So, in Golus, there's such a thing as Ruach. There are people that have a strong Ruach. There are moments in life that are Ruach oriented. There's like an Ne'il on Yom Kippur, you know. There's a Shal Shudas. There are places that are more Ruachdik. Right? It was just the Artzah of the Arizal, right? So a friend of mine, Baruch Hashem, happened to be there, so he sent me a video of the Beis HaKvaris over there, the Beis HaChaim, the cemetery of the Arizal in Tzfat. And there was no one there. It was like, I guess, early morning or whatever. And it was just like a panoramic view. I was watching it. I was like, you see, the place over there, it's barely physical. It's barely physical. Yes, it's physical. It's Kulei Ruach, Yerushalayim. There are certain places that are Ruachdik. And there are certain moments that are nefeshdik, right? There are people that are nefeshdik, right? There's people that when you look at them and you can just see in their eyes, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Like they're just see that they're bali nefesh. Rav Kook, for example, in the early 1900s, he wrote a poem describing what was going on in Eretz Yisrael at the time, where you had like tzaddikim of Yerushalayim, the old yeshuv, you know, kubalim, tzaddikim, people that no parnasa, no gashmis at all, and then you have these like young chalutzim, young pioneers coming from Europe, on their way, you know, that on the boat they threw the tefillin off, you know what I'm saying, but they're coming to like die for the land, you know, and dealing with malaria while cleaning up the swamps, And Rav Kook wrote a poem, and obviously they took one line out of context, and it just gave him big trouble. But now with this background for the past few minutes, you'll appreciate it. Rav Kook wrote that the nefesh, here's what he said, the nefesh of those young pioneers is much more developed and stronger than the nefesh of the tzaddikim of Yerushalayim. Now they took that and but the next line was, but the ruach of the tzaddikim of Yerushalayim is certainly much more developed than the ruach of these young pioneers. And then he goes on to say, and the tachlis is to have a Beis Hamikdash, which is a sar divei yechtun, which is a place in which is unified ruchin v'nafshin. And the tachlis is, when the coming of Mashiach, what the Beis Hamikdash means, is that there's no longer going to be this divide of okay, right now, I'm feeling nefesh, right now, uninspired, right now, all this is just a bottle of water, and that's it. And then, switch scenes, Shal Shudas on Shabbos, Anil and Yom Kippur's Kulei Ruach. That's gullus. The tachlis is that when I should look at this bottle of water, and I make a bracha, and I drink a cup of water, I should, of course, enjoy the physicality of this and feel a little bit more alive. My nefesh should enjoy it, but I should also feel and sense that there's something more to this cup as well. And there shouldn't be this divide between Ruchnius and Gashmius. Shouldn't be this divide between tzaddikim sitting and learning in a koil in Yerushalayim and the young people that are going out to war and protecting the land. There shouldn't be this divide between Ruach and Nefesh. There shouldn't be this divide between things that are physical and things that are spiritual, to be able to sense that which is spiritual in that which is physical. That's why, by the way, the Beis Hamikdash was a place that there was a preoccupation with beauty. It had to be beautiful. It wasn't just a matter of functionality, right? I mean, if you think about it, right? Why the Beis Hamikdash? Why is everything gold and silver and all these things? It should just be functional. You need an altar. I get it. So build an altar. You need a building. We would think why go? Save your money. Why do you have to? The answer is, what does beauty mean? Nefesh is functional. Ruchnius is something completely esoteric. When those two meet, that results in something beautiful. When you see something that's aesthetically beautiful, a piece of art or even something physical, it's drawing you in. It tells you that there's something more here than just the matter itself. Matter itself is not beautiful. But when you have matter and somehow it's arranged in an aesthetically appealing way, what's happening in the soul, what's really happening in the soul when you see something attractive, and this is true on all levels of attraction. When you see something attractive, what's really happening is that your neshama is sensing godliness in that thing. And that's what's drawing you in. This is why, by the way, to see something that's attractive but unholy is a terrible gullus. It's a terrible exile, because there's godliness in everything, and it's a nebuch on the Rebbeinu Shalom being trapped in an ugly place in those places. Okay, that's not for now, this shmooze. But Baal Shem Tov said, whenever you see something that's attractive, that's something that's beautiful, even something man-made that's beautiful. Baal Shem Tov said, this is the train of thought you have to have. Why is it beautiful? Why am I being drawn into this? It's not just a physical matter. It's got to be something more. What's drawing me in is the light of God that's pulsating in this thing, that's actually keeping this material in existence, and that's what's drawing me in. If there's any place on earth that there should be a sense of something transcendent in that which is physical, it was the Beis Hamikdash. So of course it has to be something beautiful. Therefore, understanding what the Beis Hamikdash is, our avoda this time of year, coming to Tisha B'av, is to develop a deep desire to experience the Beis Hamikdash, a deep desire to experience physical life in a way that there's something more to it. That we shouldn't be satisfied with, okay, we have everything we need in Gashmias, and I also just want to have Ruchnias too. No, we have to develop within ourselves a deep desire to experience God in everything we touch. That's what the Beis Hamikdash was. And all the kinnis that we say, all the pogroms and Holocaust, all the stuff that we try to remind ourselves about, it's for one single purpose, to get us to get to a place and to really just bash into our brains finally that this world by itself is missing something. And the best way we can describe it's missing is that you see what happens when it's left missing. It turns into pogroms and Holocaust. But the point is not the pogrom and the Holocaust. The point is what's missing in the world that such a thing could happen. What's missing in the world is the sense of ruach in the nefesh. When you leave nefesh by itself, then what happens? Things die. Things fall apart. The world goes crazy. And then you have, a crazy world that you want to get rid of, and you just escape to Ni'ila and Yom Kippur. That's Golus. The whole tachlis of this time of year, Shabbos Chazayin, the entire tachlis of this time of year is to develop within ourselves a desire to experience something big in everything we touch. That's what Tisha B'av is. And if we could bring ourselves to that place, that's the tachlis. That's what Tisha B'av is. That's the gula. Let me tell you a quick story. Is okay? It's late. It's a quick story. Okay, quick story. So this is a Maisa that Rabbunim from Shischa said before he was nifter. Okay? It's a strange one. But he said like this. He said before he was nifter, he called the Chassidim were there, and he said, I want to tell you the following story. He said there was once a Jew who was very wealthy, and one of his prized possessions was a particular racehorse. Yeah, this racehorse, very expensive. And so he built, it's an expensive horse, so he built an expensive barn for the horse. And expensive padlocks and all that stuff, security system. But he also hired a shomer, a guard, to watch all of this. Now the guard that was hired was a little bit of a funny guy. So the first night on the job, the Baal Bus is sitting at night, he's trying to go to sleep, but there's something about him that's like, he's a little bit uneasy about this watchman. He's like, doesn't trust him so much. So in the middle of the night, he wakes up, he goes down just to see what's going on, and he sees that the watchman is in front of the barn. He's pacing back and forth. And so the Baal Bus asks him, what are you thinking about? So he says, I'm thinking about a certain question. He says, honestly, and I can't. So what are you thinking about? He says, when they make donuts, when they make donuts, what happens to the dough in the hole? Like, what happens to the middle of it? Like, where does it go? So that's what I'm thinking about. So the Baal Bus is like, okay, fine. He goes back to bed. An hour or two later, he can't sleep. He goes back down. He sees Vita, he's pacing. So he asks the shomer, he says, what are you thinking about? He says, I'm up with another question. So what's the other question? He says, when you bang in a nail into wood, like what happens to that wood that the nail goes into? You know what I'm saying? Like, where did it go? Okay, fine. Another question. A couple hours later, the Baal Bus still can't sleep. He goes back down. He asks Vita, he's pacing. And he says, what's bothering you now? He says, another question is bothering me. What's the question? He said, with all due respect, he seems to be a wealthy person. So, okay. And you have this big house. It's beautiful. And you have this big barn protecting, it's amazing. You have these padlocks. You hired me. So the guy says, so what's the problem? My problem is, what happened to the horse? That's my problem. I don't know. What happened to the horse? You have this barn of the padlocks, but the horse is gone. What happened to the horse? That's the question. And with that, the Rabbunim from Shischa passed away. There is such a thing that in life, like you have everything. Like everything's there, the barn, the padlocks, the watchman. But it's all for the purposes of protecting the horse, and the horse is gone. The tachlis of Tisha B'av, the entire avodah of this time of year, is to be like that watchman and ask the question, what happened to the horse? Like, where's the horse? And only when you ask the question of where's the horse, like where's the soul contained in this experience that's called life, only then will you be given the gift of the Beis Hamikdash, because that's what the Beis Hamikdash is. The Beis Hamikdash is finding the horse in the barn. That's what the Beis Hamikdash is. And only if you ask that question can you find the horse. So you have to begin to ask that question. You have to be able to sense, and that's why the crying on Tisha B'av, the morning of Tisha B'av, is the deepest thing in the world, because it's the expression of the neshama of you saying that there's something missing in my life. That's the best thing in the world, because when you begin to sense that there's something missing, that's called building a vessel for the Beis Hamikdash. Hashem should help us that we should find the horse, and every single one of us should be zocheh to unify within our lives the world of nefesh and the world of ruach. We should be zocheh to experience with our own eyes, mamish, fleishe geigen, with physical eyes, ayin v'ayin yibashuv Hashem l'tzion, v'yeskal tzedek meher v'meinu. Amen.